Five, four, three, two, one. We've got the legendary Luke12 on the podcast here. Thanks for joining me here today, mate. Really appreciate it. It's fresh off the win as well for PCS North America.
Yeah. Very excited about that.
We were talking a little bit just before we got started and sort of comparing it to your past accomplishments, most notably GLL, and how I guess it's not quite the same, is it? You know, when you're just sitting at home versus being at the arena.
Yeah, like I said, just like with like a LAN and an online tournament, there's a big difference between playing it, so like the performance wise as well, but in regards to like the experience and just like the prestige of playing at a LAN and all that is just it's completely different to an online tournament, which is why I think GLL second place there in regards to the lobby and the LAN experience is I'd say my best achievement so far, but I think PCS1 is definitely up there with my achievements.
Definitely your best achievement with the Shoot to Kill boys.
Yeah, for sure.
And even under the Lazarus banner as well, right? But yeah, you're right. I agree. You know, GLL, LAN environment, the whole Western world rather than just North America, and probably even that underdog story that was there at the time with Atletico. Whereas a team like Shoot to Kill, man, like you guys were coming into PCS as one of the regarded favorites.
Yeah. So up there with the top three of Sonic, Oath, and us. That's who the favorites were coming into this, and I definitely agree with that. I think this is our best performance as the team that we are right now, and yeah, in regards to coming into this event, like I think we knew what we had to do to win, but we just had to do it because the past couple of events we've just been basically making too many mistakes on our end and just like throwing away too many games where we can get some good points to put on the board.
A lot of second place finishes has been sort of the trend of your
a lot of second place finishes.
Not even just Shoot to Kill, but really of your career. Like even GLL was second place, right? And at times in the Oceanic region, second behind, you know, like Incognito at times. So I think for you it's like a monkey off the shoulders here, taking the win in also what was a very close fashion as well.
Yeah, it was very crazy for this tournament here. I said it's still like when I think about it, it gets me excited and hyped just because of just like how it happened, like the whole premise behind it, like just coming into the game 12 points behind and just sitting there waiting at the Wizard Tower for the two players to bleed out, getting us the win.
Well, talk us through the mindset going into that final game. We'll talk about the event as a whole, but that game in particular, as you said, 12 points behind. Was the mindset run around and kill people? Was it try and find them? Like, what was sort of the mindset of the team going into the final game?
Well, so coming into the final game, so we find out, obviously, Wildcard win the game beforehand, which obviously isn't good because they won, like, 3 in a row, I think. So just thinking about that, like we could have let that just completely impact our mental and just like give up basically because it's some of their best performance that we've seen, especially with this team. I think it's their best performance that we've seen so far. They've really come a long way in such a short time. But yeah, coming into that last game, we said like I think we need to go for a hot drop here because in the charity event that Oath won, we had the opportunity to drop on like Oath and like try and kill them and win the game, which if we did that we would have won the tournament. Like if we killed Oath and we fucked with them at the start, like I think we definitely would have won that tournament. But it's kind of a similar situation here. Like I think we said we don't want to leave fate like to PUBG. We want to make sure we're controlling the situation here, which is why we did go for the hot drop. And our plan was to land around Wildcard, just like land around apps basically, because apps is just a shit show when it comes to contesting. You end up just dying in the blue if you actually fight there, because you can just hide in an app and just sit there on the stairs. Like there's really not much you can kind of do about that, especially if they have multiple numbers. It's really not a good fight. So we came in there. We wanted to, knowing that like we are dropping around them, we're hoping to get like a kill here and there and just like kind of just like screw over their game really, because we can't really wipe them unless it's like a very specific scenario. But yeah, that's kind of how we were feeling. We need to fuck with them at the start, just get them scared a bit, and then just literally frag out and get as many kills as possible, really.
And then also, in the end, Wildcard kind of played very passively that final game, right? Like they,
yeah.
Do you reckon they fucked themselves over?
I think 100%. Like considering how it ended, like literally a tie just based off kill points, like there's so many scenarios that could have just like, or variables that could have changed, and then boom, it's a completely different tournament. Like if say we like lose a member earlier and then we don't win a fight later on, like there's so many things. But I think Poro actually posted on Twitter about it as well. Is Wildcard saw us fighting Illusion, and obviously they like up at Lumbermill, I think, northeast Lumbermill, and they're just kind of chilling there. I think they did say they were coming over to third party, but we finished the fight with Illusion fast. But I think that is what kind of decided the tournament. Like, obviously we had to go and get a bunch of kills, but if they just like committed to that fight there and they won that fight, then they're leaving like no chance for like us to get a bunch of kills. Like, obviously we had to do that, but like we ended up doing it. If they just killed us, then it's different, you know?
So you pretty much went in with the mindset that we're either going to win this or we're going to lose it on our own terms, right? Like you definitely didn't go in and think, oh, you know, we'll just play our game. Like you pretty much went for the jugular and it paid off, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
But it's like, a risky thing to do.
It's obviously it's really risky, because if they kill one or two of us at the start of the game, then boom, it's all over. Like there's nothing we can do to kind of win the tournament from there. But like I was saying, like with the charity event, like we just like kind of just played it out, tried to have a good game, and what do you know, it went mill to power. It ended pretty much on oath. So it's like we wanted to make sure that we didn't make the same mistake of not hot dropping and just like trying to get the win instead of just playing for like second place.
Towards the end, though, it did get chaotic. I mean, you guys started really, really well, right? You were racking up a lot of kills. I think it was actually Sonics that sort of tried to fight you at one point, if I remember correctly.
Sonics kind of just like pulled up onto the shelter. I think they scouted it and they saw that the side of shelter was free, and they were coming. I think they were like decently late, to be honest. I think they must have looted up for a bit in Pachinki and just like played a bit late to try and get some points, really, because I don't think they could have caught us, so they were just kind of in third place, just kind of doing nothing really. But they pulled up literally on top of us, like at the same time that we were moving to that side of shelter. So we just fought with them, and it was really good to get those kills. Actually, like kind of lucky that they ended up just like falling into the palm of our hands, really.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, every kill mattered so much.
Yeah.
Obviously, just one less kill and you guys end up finishing second. So really, if you're getting those kills early on, it's so important for the team morale. Detriment, though, could have been had you lost a player or two in that sort of fight, right? Like, as those fights are happening relatively early on, like, are you even thinking about that? Or are you just so trained in and so focused on what's happening at that very moment, rather than the consequences if things go wrong?
Well, I don't think you can play with the thought of like consequences in your head. I think you just have to like play with your heart out there. Like, just like you play with all risk or reward, basically, especially in the scenario there. Like I think that's one thing. Like, once you see this a lot when like we start off a day with like a win or like 2 wins or something, then the rest of the day we will absolutely smash and destroy teams, just because of how confident we are in our play, because we're playing with not much to lose in regards to each game, but like we just play so confident. And I think that's how we played that last game as well. We didn't care about anything. We just wanted to kill and get as many points as possible, really.
In the end, though, very stark difference between yourselves, Shoot to Kill, and Wildcard towards the last 10 games. You guys didn't pick up a single win. They ended up picking up 5 out of 10 games. So they were sort of coming home fast versus the consistency that you guys were able to show, right? So in the end, someone has to win, but which style do you think is going to win more? The sort of fast rampant, we're going to get like 5 out of 10 wins and we're going to come home strong, or the consistent nature of 20 games where maybe you only win 2-3 games, but for the most part, you're getting a lot of high place finishes?
Yeah. So basically like how I just based on my whole PUBG career and mainly on Shoot to Kill, pretty much every tournament that we played as Shoot to Kill, we've got second place in. Like it's crazy the numbers that we've actually got, like MPL, not PGC, but like it just especially I think before this tournament, I think our most recent tournaments is like 3 in a row second places or whatever, which is so what I've always said is like consistency gets you up to the top, but I think you need those wins to push you over the edge to actually win a tournament. So I think both play styles, like where you get a bunch of wins, like Wildcard did, obviously they weren't as consistent during the first half of the tournament, but a bunch of wins really does carry you, like for those bad games, it really does make up for those bad games instead of just like consistently getting some points on the board. But I think both ways can definitely work to win a tournament.
Oh, for sure, right? As an example, one of them would be like Phase 1 2019, Incognito, and their huge night where they won like 4 out of 5 games or something, right? Like that as it's in itself shows you that sort of style can get you first place. But for me personally, I'd say consistency is certainly more valuable as long as you can, of course, get those first place chicken dinners. I think for you guys, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, but I don't think 3 wins was something you would have been too happy with. You would have been probably over the course of 20 games, maybe 4 or 5 would have been more about the mark.
I'd probably say around like 8. Like there's so many games that we you make mistakes on. Like it really does just come down to your mistakes, especially for us as a team. I feel like that's our main problem. Like if we don't make those mistakes and we win games, like in that last day, we could have won that fight against Wildcard. Like we should have probably won that fight against Wildcard. They just beat us with a nice flank from Keenan. But it's just like I think that's one thing that's kind of plagued us is not closing out those games at the late game. So instead of we're having a good game, but we're not closing out the win, which is what you need to do to win the tournaments.
I mean, in the end, yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think, but if you're getting second place with like 12 kills, that's also great, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's definitely good, but like if you had the chance to win the game there, it's just those extra like 5, maybe 8 points that just really can make a difference, like in regards to the standings of a tournament, especially confidence as well. Like winning a game is a lot better than just getting like a nice kill game, you know?
So you'd rather, hypothetically speaking, have like a win with say 4 kills, which is 14 points, versus having what would be, you know, second place would be 8 kills. It's really like at the end of the day, I'd say who cares? Like,
I mean, in that situation, yeah, I'd say who cares? Like if it's the same points, but in terms of like feeling, like if you have a game where you know you can't win it and you get a bunch of kills, like that feels really good because it means you salvaged a really bad game.
Like 12 kills and 8th place, and you got cucked by the circle.
Yeah. So I really like those. Like that's really good for confidence in regards to a tournament. But I think the main thing, this is how I've always felt, is if we are dying in those like end game scenarios, a majority of the time is like we've thrown a win, like which is obviously not good. Like you've made a mistake that could have potentially just get you so many more points. So it's like it's a bit like it's a double-edged sword. Like you have the win, which feels really good, or you don't win, but you have a lot of kills, but you know you could have won, which is obviously not really too good, but it's also good since you get a bunch of kills. But yeah,
I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's potato, right? Like you just take
Yeah.
either of those situations. You just don't want to finish last with no kills. That's really what you're
Pretty
aiming
much.
for every game. Let's take things back just a little bit to the start of PCS1 North America. So we finished, the Charity Showdown has come and gone. Going into PCS1, pretty much the same landscape. Like it was, I know for APAC, for instance, was exactly the same. The only difference was the prize pool wasn't going to half to charity and half to the players this time. It's just the whole prize pool. I'd imagine North America was the same, right? Like it was the exact same as Charity Showdown.
Pretty much. I don't think, especially with how the NA scene is right now, I don't think much changed at all. In regards to between charity and the and PCS1. Like Wildcard has progressively gotten better over the course of the months. And also, I think this tournament, Zenox and Oath, like they didn't have a great tournament, which also is why they weren't up there contesting us for the win. But it's been pretty similar since charity, except for so with PCS, like we had Zenox and Oath not performing too well, and we had a couple other teams like Fabled like performing really well for the first half of the tournament. Like I think they were in second or third place after the first week of the tournament, which is pretty crazy considering that they've never really been up there at all.
You think a team like Oath, who won Charity Showdown, was always going to struggle to get 2 in a row here coming into PCS1 North America?
I wouldn't say struggle. I mean, it's always hard to consistently win tournaments because just like how PUBG is, just it really is like a snowballing game. So if you do really well, then you're gonna end up doing really well for the whole tournament for a majority of the time. But which is what we saw here. Like they didn't do well. They didn't get any of their crazy days that they had before in the other tournaments, and then I mean they were able to bring it back. They actually had a really good comeback over the last half of the tournament. But yeah, it wasn't really like a winning scenario for them, in my opinion.
Starting slow, especially when it's only 20 games, is so detrimental. And I think for a team like Oath, you know, probably just started a little bit too slow. You guys started off actually the first game with a 14th place and 0 kills, which is not ideal. Then backed it up with 2 wins, and from there, it was pretty much just first place onwards. But how important is it to start fast? Because we've had a lot of these tournaments now where it might be only 16 games or 20 games, and we've obviously seen the other tournaments that are like 48 plus or 64 or, you know, EU's 100-something games, right? The difference is so major. Like, you have to start well.
With the shorter format, like it's so critical to just get those good games in, because I think the start of a tournament, like that can decide it does decide who the top runners are for the rest of the tournament, really. In these shorter game formats, like a 12-game series, like if you win the first game, you're pretty much, you know, you're going to be up there in that top 5 conversation pretty much the whole tournament. As long as you can convert the rest of your games, like it's because you run off that confidence at the start, and everyone's feeling obviously not confident since they probably screwed up a couple of times and they didn't get any points. So it's like, yeah, it's pretty hard to win these like short game tournaments without like a good like start.
I think also a factor of it is just the mental pressure of like the scoreboard and having to catch up to a team. It can be very excruciating, right? Because if you're, say, 20, 30 points constantly behind first place, knowing full well they're going to continue to do well. Like if I'm on like Wildcard and I'm 30 points behind shoot to kill, that plays with your mind a little bit in terms of maybe your player style. You got to like do that little bit extra to find just some extra points. Or you got to hope. You're just hoping that shoot to kill stuff up, for instance, right? So like that.
Yeah.
If you're in that first spot though, from your perspective, having been in the top spot for a while now in PCS1, do you feel any added pressure of maintaining that top spot and that teams are coming for you?
100%. I think it differs from player to player, but like for example, me, I'd much rather be chasing the first team with like a good amount of games to go than holding that lead. Because if you're not converting those games and these teams are getting closer and closer, I think that plays with your mind a lot more than, say, you're a team that constantly is behind, because you know what you need to do if you're behind, whereas you're kind of just leaving everything up in the air. If you're leading the tournament, you just need to have good games no matter what. But yeah. So like, say a team behind you gets a win and you didn't get any points that game, like that really does play with your mind if you're in first place. Because you know they're getting closer and closer. But yeah, I think I much prefer chasing a lead than holding on to it, which is sort of similar to phase 1 of OCE last year. Like when I think we were holding the lead coming into the last day there. And
yeah, it was like 50 points.
yeah, and then Incog got like 2 wins in a row or something, and then boom, the lead's just completely gone. And so it really does play with your mind.
If I recall, basically the lead was gone in like 3 games, and then the 4th game they actually took the lead, and then the last game you had to make up like 12 points. Kind of similar actually to this.
Yep.
Very similar. This time around though, you actually came through no matter. But we'll look at the halfway mark. So 10 games have gone here for PCS1 North America. You guys have won 3 out of those 10 games. Wildcard has only won 1. They're kind of not even really anywhere close to you guys. I think at that point, I think it's like Oath and Sonics that are still kind of close by. But you guys were pretty much ahead for a good bit.
I think Oath and Sonics were actually really far down there.
Really?
Yeah, I think they were both. Oath was below 8th place, and Sonics was sitting around like 7th or 8th, I think.
I think they started their comeback on day 3.
Yeah, they did. At the halfway mark, I think it was Zenox actually sitting behind us like 29 points or something, and they were playing like really good, having some really good games, like fragging out and stuff. And then we had Fabled as well, I think.
Both of those 2 teams dropped off pretty heavily after that. You, of course,
they did, yeah,
kept going, but it wasn't the same. Like, just looking at the stats and looking at the numbers, there seemingly was a bit of a drop off in the last 10 games. Why is that?
Well, so we actually came into that 3rd day, and I think we ended the day with like 21 points or something. It was a really shitty day. Like it's probably one of our worst days in like actual competition in quite some time. And I just think we made so many mistakes, and there's a lot of like certain scenarios that just like if one thing changed, then it's a completely different game. But I don't know, that was a really rough day, especially seeing Wildcard like really come up closer. I think until that last day we had a 5-point lead or something on them, which is that's why I say like holding onto that lead, especially if you have a bad day and another team like catches you, it really fucks with your mind. That's
where you got to have that strong mental game. Yep. Otherwise you can really let it slip. But as that day 3, say as it finished, or even as it was sort of going on, what was the sort of team conversation around it? Was it a topic? Was it just sort of like, fuck it, let's just get through this day and then come back on day 4? Or was there serious discussions?
I'd say it was more just so usually how we play game to game. We just like play the tournament, and then we look after the day to see what our main mistakes were. Like obviously we discuss after each game, but so we really just like after the day ended, we were just like a really shitty day. It's like not much we can do from here. We're still holding a 5-point lead, so we got that 5 extra points. It does help, but we just need to really come out tomorrow with like some big games and like consistently show up every single game.
And that day 4 really was just back and forth. You guys and Wildcard, like they were getting wins, but you were getting second places with high kills. Like it was, both teams weren't able to pull away from each other all the way down to that final game. In essence, though, this is sort of the third option, or the third degree, I guess, to the conversation we were having before, where it's like, okay, if you're first, you got teams below you. If you're second, you got a team above you. But in this case, it was kind of just like equal. Like, does that relieve some pressure where it's like...
I actually think it does, yeah. So, like, it just means you're fighting constantly. It's just like... I mean, if you do... So how it ended up is we both did well every single game, no matter what, except for that last game, I think. So there wasn't really a scenario where we just lost all our confidence because the other team pulled away. I think, but, like, fighting, like, every single game is just so close that it really does help with, like... knowing that you just gotta keep fighting. But if it did, like they won 2 games and say we got like an 8th in both games, like I think it's a different story. Like you start losing a bit of confidence since they pulled away already quite a bit with such short games to go.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing as well. When it's only 5 games remaining, and it's almost as if the 15 games before that didn't really matter. Like, if we're just looking at first place only, you've only got 5 games to determine that, and all that good form you had over the first 10 games has kind of evaporated a little bit, at least over day 3. Coming into day 4, you had to refine that form. You're fighting with Wildcard, and it's just neck and neck the whole way through. But were there lessons in the past, not just for yourself, but the team, that maybe aided this situation? Because it feels like you've got a history of you do have a history of second places, but even the other boys on the team as well have got that history of missing out. Did that sort of fuel the fire where it's like, no, not this time, this time we're going to come through?
I think it definitely did. So touching on that, like, everyone has a history of second place. So back when I was joining the team, so I knew they came second at I think it was Face It, and then I came second at GLL, so it was like kind of combining 2 second place like mindsets together, and then what do you know, he gets second place at MPL, and pretty much from then, like, we've always been up there consistently as like a top team, and we haven't managed to win except for this tournament. But I think every single time, like every time you get second, it really you really do learn, like from failure, like you learn a lot. So every single time is just like we gain that experience and that knowledge that we know what we need to change, especially with our mindset and our game and stuff like that. I think that really did help, especially since we were versing Wildcard, which is a pretty new team. Like, we have that experience as a team, where we know what we need to do, and whereas they're like more like a younger team, and they don't know the ins and outs probably of like their team and in regards to that. But I think all those second places, like, they build us up.
As you pushing through that final day, and as it's getting closer and closer, when did the discussions turn to hot drops and stopping Wildcard specifically?
In that last game, I think. So it was 2 games to go, and we were literally tied like 177 points, I think. And then they won that game, and then we decided that we wanted to just take fate into our own hands and try and win the tournament, basically. But yeah, it was just so close throughout that whole last day, and it was pretty crazy. Yeah.
Do you think if you had to finish second, it would have been a big hit on the mental, like just another second?
I don't think it would have been too big a hit.
Because for a lot of teams, second's amazing.
Yeah, that's always the saving grace. Is like, second is really good, but you're the first loser. Like, it really does stick in that you haven't won a tournament yet. So knowing that we win this tournament, like, it feels really good. But like I was saying, like, second place, like, you always do take away from it and you learn from it. Because I think this tournament was especially this one, like, I played a terrible tournament, I think. I really couldn't get anything done throughout the middle after that tournament. I think I had like 6 kills in like 10 games or something, and then the rest I had like whatever it was. Like, I had a lot more, but I just like had a terrible middle half of the tournament. We weren't really playing too well, especially into that 21-point day. It's like I was expecting, like, if we did lose, like, it was because of that 21-point day, which makes sense. Like, we really fucked up on that day, so it doesn't hurt too much, because I really do think you can take away a lot from not winning, basically.
I think every team can say that, though. Like, Wildcard would look back on day 2, for instance, even though they had an 18-point game in their first game of that. After that, It was like 12th, 11th, 7th, 13th. Like, they didn't really get too much, maybe just a little bit shy of 30 points on that day, right? So they would sit back and be like, oh, that last day where we picked up 3 wins in a row, and then on day 3 they picked up 2 wins. Like, basically their last 10 games, if we just take the 10 games from there, they won comfortably. But from their mindset, It's like, if we had just done that for 20 games, we win easily. But it doesn't work like that, right? You kind of have to account for every single game. Every single game matters. You go all the way back to round 1 of PCS1 North America, where you got 14th with 0 kills. Like, that was kind of the difference, really. They got 3rd with 2 kills. That one game technically could have been the difference. So, like,
it's funny because in those first 2 days of the tournament, we started each game with like 0 points, So yeah, we got like whatever it was in the first game, and then the next day in the first game as well, we got 0 points. And we
Zero,
really just
0, 1 point, and then on the last day you picked up second place at 9 kills.
Yeah. So those, I think as a team, like those games, like they really do. Every game matters. Like you got to take it game by game, get as many points every single game. But like in the grand scheme of things, I think if you're playing as a team, I don't think you should be giving a fuck about any other team. Like you just need to be focused on your own mistakes. You shouldn't be caring about what other teams are doing. Like obviously they're making mistakes, but you just got to make less mistakes. Like that's how it should be.
Was that the mindset back in Atletico when it was Ath versus Incog, phase 1, phase 2? Was that the same mindset that you had back then?
Yeah, I think I've always had the mindset where it's if we're losing, it's got nothing to do with other teams. It's always us. Like it's, and that's, I feel like that's stayed true as well. I think it's I'm correct by saying that. I think OC is a bit different because obviously we had Incog and us, and we were just like the top dogs no matter what.
Yep.
So you can kind of go into the lobby and just like farm the lobby, and it's like, well, fuck, we can't really do anything about that.
What are you gaining from that? What are you really learning? And even till today, even when you're not even here anymore, it's still pretty much Astra Fury, right?
Yeah. So I think that's the one hard thing about winning those tournaments is unless you are like consistently better than the other team. So like I'm talking about like Fury and Astra here, but or like same with like Af and Incog when I was playing. It's like unless you're consistently doing better, like every single like a day, like you got to take it day by day really. But because you know that both teams have the possibility to just farm like a day completely, just get like do like what Incog did and get like 4 wins in a day, some shit like that. And it's just you know that it is your mistake. So if you don't make those mistakes and then you're up there to actually compete with this team, because there's no other teams that can beat them in a fight basically, like you know that you can change the outcome of a tournament if you don't make those mistakes.
And this kind of segues really well into what I wanted to bring up, and I'm sure many probably eager to hear. But of course, one of the big reasons for not playing in Oceania anymore is, of course, you're a really talented player, but North America has a lot more opportunities. Fortunately, what that means you're going to be playing on high ping over into North America. We'll touch on that shortly because I just want to touch more on the beginning of your North American journey here. And then we'll end it off with the lovely talk of the ping. When you finished GLL, how many offers did you realistically get?
Well, I think I had interest from a few people, but I think the big standout one was Lazarus because they were like really like interested. They wanted to trial me, and it was like a more like just their offer rather than just like potential offers really. Yeah, I think that was the one that really like stood out to me from the start when I did get an offer. So yeah, I mean, obviously I did end up going with them, but it was a really like hard choice to leave a team that I thought it's definitely the best team that I had played on to date there, and we just performed really really well at such a big tournament, and it was hard to like leave AF at the time and like decide to go over to America and join Lazarus / STK. But I think I weighed up the pros and cons and just like with how PUBG is and just like in regards to like OCE, I think it's definitely the right move to like move over and just like really further like my career and build as a team and like develop myself as a player, just like instead of just staying in OCE and just like staying the same the whole time. I think that's one thing that I've really like tried to do throughout my time playing PUBG is consistently just challenge myself to try and get better and better every single time, which obviously moving to NA it's a big challenge compared to OCE.
Was it a daunting challenge knowing that you were going to have to leave Australia and go and live in North America?
I don't think it was daunting. I think it was like more exciting, to be honest. Like, especially after performing so well at GLL, like personally, I've always like known that like what I'm capable of and like what I can do for a team.
Hmm.
So I knew I could go over and like we could win MPL basically. Like I knew that coming in. So I had faith in Lazarus and everyone on that team to like try and support me like coming over, just and then fit me in and then try and win MPL basically.
You had Nations Cup actually just before all of the announcing and going over to North America. Did it weigh up in the back of your mind at all that a poor performance at Nations Cup might take your stonks down?
Not really. I came into Nations Cup like really confident. In regards to the outcome of the tournament, it was obviously a lot different than what I expected. I think that to date, that's probably my worst tournament I've ever played, like ever. And I actually took away a lot from that tournament. I think I've had a couple of events in my time where they've been my worst performing events, and I've learned a lot from those events. So like Nations Cup, it's the first time I'd ever played a tournament without warming up before, and it's just it really took a hit to my mental performance and also my physical performance. Like I didn't feel confident at all because I couldn't warm up. Like I hadn't shot a gun before I got into the first game, or like just like that sort of stuff. Like it really played with my mind, especially after not doing too well. But yeah, so yeah, I don't think it put me down. It just like kind of I knew what had happened. I knew what I need to work on. I knew what I was capable of. I knew I could have done really well at that event. Granted, making a brand new team with 3 IGLs basically was a bit rough. But
I said at the time it was all 3 IGLs just to basically tell you what to do.
Yeah, it was.
One fragger.
We tried to make it work. We hadn't practiced together at all. But it was a really weird event, I'll say. Like
it was, but it was a very stacked event in terms of the players that were playing. So it was like high quality, but not really the same. Similar to like a PGC or a GLL. It didn't have that same feeling, but it was like still high quality.
Yeah, I think to date that's probably my most like favorite event that I've ever watched in PUBG. Is it the same as like a PGC where it's the best teams? Because really all Nations Cup was a show match, like with a bunch of really good players playing together.
In a fucking sick country as well. Like it was.
And
awesome.
It was such an awesome experience, especially with how PUBG Corp set us up in that
that hotel
nice
awesome.
hotel there. Yeah. But yeah, I think it was an awesome experience at Nations Cup. And even though like I think the one bad thing about it was just my performance. I think that's the only bad thing I can say about that event. And even then, I took away a lot from that event. Like I came into MPL with Lazarus, like knowing that I had just come off like a really shitty performance at a Nations Cup, and I just wanted to prove that I'm a lot better than that, and I'm consistently going to be up there.
In essence, though, going from the quality of those sort of lobbies for Nations Cup to then MPL, which, no disrespect, isn't exactly the strongest region, right? Yep. You would have probably just been clicking heads, farming, having a lot of fun.
To a certain degree, I think back then, with Phase 3, I think it's still back then, like you had the really good teams. I think there was, you could easily say there was a solid top 10 in America.
So that was the strongest NA that you'd played against, was Phase 3 2019?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I'm trying to think about, I think Phase 2 might have been like a stronger like America that might have been like ever played before, just because there was like a couple retirements, I think. But I think that's definitely the best American competition I've played against as a player. So it was really good to get in there and like learn and like fix all my my small mistakes and just like build myself as a player.
What did you sort of focus on when you went to North America? Now we're finished with PUBG Nations Cup. We're heading into Phase 3. Luke12's now in Lazarus.
Yep.
Did you get not a culture shock, but just a shock in terms of playing against a relatively higher level of players compared to Oceania?
Not really, because this is one thing that I've kind of done throughout like the whole time playing is I treat I can't do it to see like a player like as bad and just like I just play like more confident. I always treat every player with like the same level of respect, like based off like positioning and stuff like that. So like I came into the tournament like with really like good like basics already like down packed. So I wasn't punished for like anything too bad at all. It's just more learning how people play and just like the difference of like skill in regards to like they can shoot a lot better than like some most players.
Yeah.
But I came into the like with the what I was saying about Nations Cup with like not warming up and stuff. I actually experimented quite a bit like throughout phase 3. Like I did days where I warmed up a lot. I did days where I warmed up a tiny bit. I did days that I didn't warm up at all. Like I just went throughout the whole of MPL, just like doing that and just like enforcing into my mind that I didn't need warm up to play well. Because I had days where I warmed up like a lot and just didn't do well at all, and then I had days that I didn't warm up at all and I fragged out. So I just like I kind of went there with like the goal of it's like building myself as a player and trying to like form well as a team, really, with Lazarus.
What was the setup for you when you went over there for the first time? You had the Lazarus house?
Yeah, the Lazarus house. That place was sick.
Yeah. That was only for phase 3, wasn't it? So you weren't really there too long.
I think I was there for just about probably 2 months in the Lazarus house. Maybe a bit more because I was staying there till PGC. So I was pretty much in America for about like 3-ish months, probably a bit under.
Where actually was it located? Because I remember I think Zoid went over to the Lazarus house to check it out.
Yeah.
But
it
was like a little drive away.
Yeah, I think it was like a 30-minute drive from the PGC hotel.
Right.
So it was Redondo Beach. I think that's what it was. So yeah, like it was a really sick place. It was in a good area. Like we had a gym close by. We had a bunch of like shops close by that we could eat. Like it was just like really good for like team chemistry. Like we just when we weren't playing, we were chilling, hanging out, going out to places. So I really like enjoyed my time at the Laz house. Like it was such a great experience. Probably my best experience like to date, in regards to like as with a team.
Would you say that was an advantage heading into PGC? That a lot of the other teams were stuck in their hotels. You guys had your Lazarus house. You could play it any time you wanted.
I'd definitely say it's an advantage, but I wouldn't go as far as saying it was like a massive advantage because I mean, it's just like there's something about I'd say there's pros and cons of both. Like pros with the Laz house, like we're comfortable all the time, like and we can kind of play whenever we want, other than like media times, which everyone has to do. But like going to a LAN and then like staying at a hotel and just like knowing your practice times, like it does like it's a mindset that you're here to work, like you're here to practice. You need to get the best practice possible, and you need to like be ready for when the time comes. Whereas like if we were just staying at a house, just like kind of chilling out the whole time, it's a bit different. Like we need to make sure that we could keep up that same level of practice that we needed. So
what were your thoughts on PGC? We'll quickly touch on it. Probably don't have to deep dive too much into it. For the most part, for you guys, it was like nothing too special. You dealt with the group stage, you dealt with the semifinals. Like it was all just kind of fine with you. But were you surprised to see Atletico dumped out so early?
I wouldn't say surprised. I was surprised to see them go during the elimination stage. I thought they would have been there in the semifinals. I thought they pretty much would have. I think with Vendetta in the semifinals, they weren't they? Yeah. So I think I was expecting a role reversal between both of them, really. But yeah, like we came into that tournament knowing that we could do really well, and especially after like winning the semifinals, we were coming in expecting like a really good performance from us. But I think that is possibly our worst like playing event that we've ever played as STK.
The actual finals in the Oakland arena.
The actual finals it was absolutely terrible. I don't think I've ever played a tournament and felt more hopeless, like with how we were playing. Like we just couldn't get anything done because of how bad we were playing.
I think the best example of that was when Stubber Hill in the exchange with TSM and 4AM, and you guys somehow lost that. I still don't know how.
Well, in regards to that game, I think that was just a smaller fuck up. I don't think that really did too much for us. I think
but it just maybe sums up the tournament a bit.
Yeah. When I look back at that tournament, when I go to sum up a tournament, I'd go to a game where we decided to fight 4AM in the compound northeast of Hacienda, and we end up like losing like 3 people fighting at the start of the game, and it was such like every single person made individual mistakes, and like as a team we made mistakes as well. And I just look back at that tournament. I remember that game, and it felt like that.
I think I was casting that game, the Hacienda fight. You guys, you had some fighting words, I think, going into the finals. That Hacienda was Hacienda. Hacienda or whatever. For 4AM, with 4AM, they couldn't give a shit. They were like, "Who's Lazarus? Who's this?"
I mean, we ended up pushing them out for the finals, but that's the one thing that we've been kind of like played with at like more international tournaments like GLL Season 4 and PGC is we've always been contested in Hacienda, which is really a bitch when it comes to it, because like one of the good things about Hacienda is you have pretty much all options, like north, east, and south, kind of, and then west as well, like if you go a bit further north. But like we've been cut off from our north, like every single tournament that we played. We've had 4AM and then Singularity at GLL Season 4. But yeah, it's a bit rough. But back to PDC, it wasn't too special at all. We really came out of that tournament, I think, like demoralized, and just like we lost a lot of confidence as a team. But I think we really needed to.
Is that just because you had expectations going into the finals because of the semifinals performance?
I think so. We had expectations, knowing that we could have done so much better than what we did. Like it was really just a massive like fuck up from our end.
Was it like 14th place, if I remember correctly?
I think it was 13th. I think
13th, 14th, 13th.
Yeah. It doesn't really matter because we could have gone 16th and it would have been the fucking same thing.
Yeah.
But it was just like a really bad tournament that we needed to like come back from and like learn a lot from. Because it was just like we just played so bad. But
that's PUBG in a nutshell, right? Because you've got FaZe who barely scraped in the final game of the semifinals, and then they finished second in Oakland.
Yeah,
like it's PUBG in a nutshell. Plus, it was only 12 games, but not that would have made much of a difference for you guys in particular, because it was really rough going from beginning to end. But looking back at that now, I'm sitting there like, holy shit, only 12 games. I think that's strange, isn't it?
It's pretty crazy, especially like I think that's because that whole year everyone had been playing like at least 40 game leagues.
48 I think was like the average number.
Yeah, for like all their tournaments, especially like EU had like 96 or whatever, and like everyone was playing different leagues with a bunch of games. So these 12 game tournaments like really were a lot different than because even GLL was 18 games, which I think is like, personally, I think that's a sweet spot for like a one-off like event, because it's like it keeps that hype, but it also adds that consistency of like not as much RNG, like compared to what you get out of a viewing experience, I guess.
Well, even the group in the elimination stages was 6 games. Like, looking back on it, it's not good.
I don't think it's good, but it is what it is. Like we still kind of, it doesn't matter. Like you still, if you're not doing well,
that's true.
You're obviously fucking up somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think so. The one thing about PGC is, like we were saying earlier, like if you start off with some good games, like you will do really well for that tournament. I think that's the only reason Gen G won that tournament is because of so the first game was obviously really good for them. They got a really good shift onto the North Island that was pretty nuts. But I think the the game that won them the tournament and gave them the confidence to just frag the fuck out for that whole event was actually the second game that we completely threw, that no one probably even like looks at us and sees how bad we threw that game. Is Genji, just like we just forgot about Genji completely, and we just let them kill us for free in the game-winning spot for that game, and then they ended up winning that game, and then obviously as the story went, they went out and fragged out for the whole event and ended up winning. But I don't think Genji win that tournament if we don't throw that game. Like I think the confidence of winning 2 games in a row really like helped them a lot, especially considering they did really bad throughout the whole rest of the event.
Yeah, they haven't even really set the world on fire in 2020 so far. Didn't do well in PCS, but hey, look, PUBG is like that. You're not going to be able to just smash every single tournament, tournament to tournament. Moving on from PGC though, and look, I agree with you. I think that once you do well in the semifinals, you are going to have expectations, but overall, you hadn't really spent like an amazing amount of time with the boys, so it was more like, all right, now let's head into 2020.
I think back then, like I was optimistic, but like coming into 2020, that's when I think we knew as a team, like we were looking to win like every single tournament in 2020 in NA.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of started off doing relatively well. You won the NA finals for Global Elite League. You finished 4th at GLL Season 4.
Yep.
And then, of course, COVID.
Well, actually, I do want to touch on one thing: is the what was it? The Berlin qualifiers in NA, where we didn't even qual through the
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
we didn't get to the quals for the quals. Basically, we ended up 9th place or whatever.
10th.
We need to get top 8 or 10th, whatever it was. But that tournament right there was just like we were still kind of we hadn't really like worked on fixing our problems from PGC because
were you in North America at the time for that?
No, so the only time I've ever been in North America was like those first 3 months that I'd been there. So
you basically came home after PGC and have stayed home. Okay.
Yeah, I've been home since PGC, so I've been playing on ping since then.
Yeah.
But so we came off PGC, we went and we absolutely dominated the GLL quals. Like we literally shot on everyone. And then between that and GLL Season 4, we had the Berlin quals, which was very similar to PGC in regards to our performance. It felt hopeless. We were doing absolutely nothing. We played terribly. But yeah, I think we learnt a lot from that event. I personally think that event, we actually needed to like get basically like a smack in the face and just like tell us, all right, stop fucking around, get onto it, get a lot better. And then we ended up going to Season 4 for GLL, and we played. It was a decent event, but we did pretty good in terms of standings, I guess. But yeah.
Well, the ping certainly didn't help you there, did it? In the in the Berlin qualifiers.
Yeah, I think we lost out by like 3 points or something, which you could look back to it and say, oh, I got decent killed here. I could have got a kill here or there, but it's whatever. Like, I don't know.
Well, this is the thing though. So you've been playing from Australia for quite a while now. How much ping do you actually get to North America? Like, is it 200?
Despite what Mime says, 300 ping lol.
That would be EU.
Yeah, EU's like 310. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. But for the events now, since they're playing on East Coast servers, I think it's Virginia servers. I think I get around 210 to 230 on average.
That's not bad.
It's not that bad. It's obviously not good, but
well, for those who aren't aware, typically like if it's West Coast from Australia, you can get like 170, 180 with good
West
ping,
West
good
Coast.
connection.
It's like 180. That's what I pretty much get straight away, which isn't. It's really not terrible.
No. I used to play like League of Legends back in 2010 on that, and it was like no issue.
Yeah, with how PUBG works, like it's 180 really isn't that bad. Because somehow you can actually play PUBG pretty decently, like on high ping. Like it doesn't compared to like CS. If you had 180 ping, like you wouldn't be able
But
to
if you
actually play
if
the
you
game.
start getting to about 230 though, there are going to be side effects.
Yeah, there definitely is. But just like in regards to how PUBG plays, it's if you were playing a game like CS, like if it's like a 5v5, you wouldn't be able to play. It would be way too bad. But because a lot of the time you are just like kind of, I guess, sitting there and
Holding
just
an
waiting
angle.
until waiting until you need to fight. It's not just like non-stop fighting. You can actually get away with playing like decently high ping.
I mean, but what's your thoughts on it though, right? Like, at the end of the day, here's the question: would you rather have 10 ping or 210 ping?
10 ping every single day, every single day. It's like I despise playing on high ping. Not only is it just like it's a complete disadvantage. Despite what everyone says that actually believe it's an advantage, they ignore all the disadvantages that come with a ping. And they also don't take into account that ping is advantages for every player. It's not just for players with like 200 ping. You're sitting there with 50 ping, and you also have ping's advantage. So it doesn't really. It's just a lot more noticeable on higher ping because there's obviously that bit more of a delay. But like there's so many more disadvantages when it comes to ping. Like driving cars, you can't hop out of cars until they're completely stopped. It takes a while for cars to even start up because your input is being delayed a bit for some reason. If you go through fences in cars, you take damage. Like there's just so many weird things that just are terrible on like high ping, like looting as well. Like those extra like seconds that you need to loot, like it's just terrible. But yeah, like there's a lot of small things about ping that not a lot of people know about. That you can only kind of figure out once you play it, really. But yeah, like overall, every single day of the week, I'd want to be playing on low ping. You have to play a completely different play style when you are playing on high ping. Like you basically have to play like a pussy. Like it's.
Do you have to track your shots differently as well? Like putting the crosshair a little bit in front?
Sometimes it feels like that. Like it does feel like the lead is like different on high ping for some reason. Just because like everything's like, it seems a bit more like laggy and just like delayed. Like when I play with ping, like I have this feeling of just like I've got like a fucking bear on my fucking back, and I just feel like just delayed the whole time, and I can't move around fast or. But yeah, like it's really bad because when I play OCE, like I just feel so much more comfortable like playing on like 10, 20 ping or whatever it is, and it's you can play the game so much better on low ping. And every single day of the week, I'd want to be playing on low ping compared to high ping.
Well, for the people who are just steadfast in their beliefs that high ping is an advantage, wouldn't you just say to them, well, then go play in EU then? Like North American players should then be playing in EU and like just abuse ping.
I don't know. I've said multiple times, like if you think it's such an advantage, go turn on your VPN, go connect to a different server, come back to NA, and go get your advantage. See how well you do. But it's whatever. Like I'm not saying ping's fine. Like it's obviously in terms of competitive integrity, like any ping is bad. Like it's not good. But in regards to saying that it's a complete advantage and stuff like that, it's just you just like you see one thing and you're holding on to that one thing, which is just not true to what it really is.
There was a lot of drama about a week ago, roughly. A lot of memes comments. What were your takes on that? What were your thoughts on that? Especially considering it was in a public forum.
The thing is with mime, I kind of sit back and I just laugh at him, because he's really set on his beliefs about everything regarding ping. I mean, granted, he's not like completely wrong with the competitive integrity thing. Like I just said, like any ping is like bad. It's not good. It's not a good thing to be playing on 200 ping. But like, I just sit back and I just laugh at how intent he is to just like getting like me removed basically from.
Well, that's what it feels like. It feels like a witch hunt.
Yeah, it does feel like a witch hunt. It's pretty funny. Like I always have a laugh every single time he posts something or goes into his chat spamming whatever he spams. But yeah, like it's just I find it funny, to be honest.
I mean, that's a good way to sort of view it, because some players would probably feel discouraged, not wanted, not liked because of it. Like, at the end of the day, there's nothing that you can really do about it unless there was a ping cap ruling that said anyone that has over, say, 100 MS cannot participate. Now, Tribizzle made public comments saying that he's going to do everything he can to try and get that implemented for... I don't know if he said it was for PCS2 onwards. I don't think he'll get anything in for PCS2, considering we start in like a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he'll get anything changed, but that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to get it changed for as soon as possible.
Now,
really.
It seems vindictive. I don't think it is, personally. I think, and you agree with that, you know, integrity is important.
Yeah.
There are a lot of other esports titles. Rainbow Six has got an implementation that you've got to have a certain ping.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world, but the problem is it shuts you out, doesn't it? Like, if that was to be implemented, now, I don't think it's going to happen PCS2, but definitely can't happen PCS2, and I don't think it's going to happen by the end of the year. But let's say 2021, it gets implemented, and for whatever reason, you cannot move to North America. Is that it for you then? Like,
I wouldn't say that's it, but touching on like in regards to the actual ping cap, so in regards to the scenario, so West Coast players actually get over 100 ping to East Coast servers. So if they were to implement 100 ping cap, like NA players can't play NA. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But like the ping cap he's looking to introduce, quite literally only removes me from the league. No one else. Like literally no one else. EU players get under the ping cap, which is like I think it's like 150 is what they're like looking to kind of like implement.
Oh, so it's a bit higher. It's like around 150, 160.
Yeah, so something around there. But like it kind of does feel like a witch hunt, like it really does. But I mean, I do understand some like arguments in terms of what the points that they're arguing against the high ping. I think when I look at it, they're kind of dumb about that. But I do agree with like the competitive integrity bit of it.
What about his comments about how when you were a part of Lazarus that you needed to push and get the visa and everything? From what has been spoken about, even if that had have happened, it would have been revoked once you were no longer part of the team. Is that correct?
I mean, I don't think there's anything really to talk about with that, because the scenario right now is COVID's just happened.
Well, there's that, yeah. Obviously,
like it doesn't matter. I wouldn't be in America no matter what. Like I just like even if we sign with a team right now, and I got a visa, I wouldn't be in America. I'd be in Australia, because I'm pretty sure. Can we even leave Australia yet? I don't think we can we?
Well, no, but if you had have been, say, in America, like Tiggleton, for instance, was in America, chose to stay in America because he had the Sonic's house and everything. So, like, in the hypothetical world that you were on Lazarus, you had the house, and you got the visa that allowed you to stay there, right? Technically, then, once Lazarus, you guys departed from Lazarus, the organization, I'm pretty certain the visa would have been revoked. So then you would have been forced to come home anyway.
I mean, I'm not too sure about that, to be honest. But like I would have had nowhere to stay anyway. So it's where am I going to stay if I didn't have the Laz house? So it's like I would have been in Australia, then COVID would have happened, and like I'm stuck here anyway. Like then would they have done the same thing? Try and get me removed, even though I'm stuck in Australia and I can't do anything.
Yeah,
like that's one thing that I think is a good argument against why they want to ping up. I don't know, because it really is like I would be playing against them on low ping, in these big events.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for COVID, like I'd be playing on LAN with them.
If they implement a ping cap though, then just go play EU and have 300 ping. Apparently, since it makes you so much better anyway. Yeah, look, it's intriguing. Like, Tribizzle was going around on Twitter saying, "Hey, I'll sign you guys. I'll give you," like, saying all these things. It's like, but you can't do that though.
Yeah,
you already got a team. Like, can't have two.
It's a weird scenario. It's just, especially like the scene right now. Like obviously, PUBG's not in its best state. Like there's not that many orgs, especially in NA. Like NA's becoming very similar to OCE
Yeah.
in terms of just like orgs and stuff like that. Like everyone's pretty much unsigned. But yeah, like it's just, I don't know. It's a bit of a weird scenario because he can't sign us and set me up over there, really, especially with the ruling of PUBG right now.
And the other part of the equation as well is, and I know it's something that you've discussed before, but you know, if you say weigh up the benefits of being, say, shoot to kill,
yeah,
which is not really an org, just a cool name, versus actually joining an organization and them taking prize money cut too.
Yeah, well, yeah, that goes to what I was saying of like the current climate of like NA. It's almost, especially like if we're winning tournaments and stuff, it's not worth to sign to an org at this like current moment in time. The only reason we'd need to sign to an org is to get me in America if a ping cap was implemented. Like that's the only reason. Because I think at the moment, like just with the current like climate of how the orgs are in PUBG in America, it's just better to be inside, to be honest.
And the same probably goes for really a lot of regions, even the likes of EU, considering the way everything's played online nowadays. Like,
I will say that I agree with that to a certain degree. Like, it's like you do have to weigh up, like, do you want a consistent paycheck or do you want to bet on yourself to win a tournament? Like that's kind of really what it is. But it does get a bit tricky with the teams that aren't really favorites to win tournaments. And realistically, like a team that like has just come into the top 16 in America, they're probably not going to win a tournament. Like it's just it's so unlikely. So like if they got offered like a paycheck every single month, like would they take it? Even though they probably take a pretty big cut of prize pool. Like it might be worth. But
and that's just the regional tournaments too, right? When you consider the international tournaments that have got the real big prize money, like depending on the contract, if it's a percentage, right? Like a percentage of $1 million is a lot of money.
Yeah, it's like say we won PGC, like it's any org that there would have got really good money because obviously it's really good money. Like $2 million, $4 million dollars.
Yeah, it was like I think it was $2 million alone just for first in the end.
Yeah, so it was like a $4 million total prize pool, or
something like that. Yeah, because of the skins.
Yeah, it's just like everyone would have made a lot of money. So like obviously, if you were unsigned and you won the tournament, there you go. You just got $2 million. But it's really just like weighing up those pros and cons of like being signed, being unsigned, and especially with like the current climate in America. Like unless you're getting like a really decent salary, is there any reason to be signed to an org? If they're going to be taking, like, realistically, like, you look at it and you say, what can we get out of it? And most of the time is, like, with a lot of the offers we've had is, like, nothing. We pretty much lose stuff every single time.
Did you get an offer from Sonics?
Well, I mean, they pretty much, they said, like, what they've said online, like, they will sign us, like, if they can sign another team. Like, that's what they wanted. They probably like if you're looking at Sonics, like they probably wouldn't mind having like Oath, us, and Wildcard all signed to the same org, like just so they win basically everything.
Like that's why the rules are there. You can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. But
which while it's not usually an NA thing, it's usually more like a Southeast Asian sort of thing where you have victim rise, victim shooter, victim this and whatnot.
I think that's I don't know, it gets a bit dodgy, especially with like signing multiple teams, as like we've seen in APAC recently. But I don't know. I don't think it is good to have multiple teams unless you have an academy team and like a main team. I think that's good.
Yeah, if it's like there's a main team in like MPL and then there's an academy team in like the league below, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. I think that's good. I think that promotes like you're trying to work up these academy players, like realistically, like in a big esports like League of Legends, like they've got academy teams that they put players up once they get really good if a player underperforms, stuff like that. And yeah, I think that's really good. But obviously PUBG is very young in regards to a lot of other esports, especially with how the first couple of years have gone. Like it hasn't really been too productive. Like it's this year, despite COVID, was actually looking. I think it looked really good. The plan they had for PUBG.
The original PGS, you liked what you envisioned. I didn't mind it either. I thought the Americans.
I thought it was a lot better than last year. But I think I think it is pretty much what they should have done at the start of PUBG. Really, like they just like,
I agree.
Because it would have built like a basis for all these things to just get a lot better and grow PUBG instead of just like shoving a bunch of like leagues and stuff like that, which is, I think it was way too early on in the stage of PUBG.
No, I definitely agree. Speaking of those sort of international events, though, North America, you've been there for a little while now. What's your take on the region versus the rest of the world? EU, Asia, APAC as well, to a degree, sort of now that you've played quite a few international level events as well. Yeah. How do you think the NA region sits up against everyone else?
I think the top teams in NA sit pretty well against all these other teams like in EU and pretty much all of Asia. I think NA is a region like we were saying a lot earlier on the podcast, is like since phase 3 MPL, like a lot of people have retired, a lot of teams have split up, a lot of orgs have left the game, so which has led to probably a lot of retirements as well. And it's progressively gotten like very similar to OCE, where like a lot of talent is just like left the scene, and there's not really much new talent coming up. To a degree, I think NA is a lot better off than OCE in that regards, but
definitely, yeah.
It's pretty rough, I'd say, like especially at the moment with compared to say like last year when we had all these great players and great teams playing.
So, would you rank Asia first, EU second, and then North America third? Like out of the main regions and then APAC last?
Yeah, right. So I think. And it's hard to say. It's really hard to say.
Well, it's not your opinion. Like, you know, how you look at it.
So I think Asia, EU, NA, then APAC. I think so if I wanted to bet on the teams that won those leagues and which would win a tournament, I'd say Asia, EU, NA, APAC.
Yeah.
So if it was a big international tournament, I think that's how the rankings would go, compared to like what teams they would send over and stuff like that. But I think Korea is probably the best region in PUBG right now, with China being pretty close up there. But I think China lacks a bit of consistency in terms of their results, compared to say like EU, who are consistently up the top there as well. Who I'd probably go as far as saying is it's Korea, EU, China, NA.
I'd agree with that.
Then Southeast Asia, and then I would probably put OC at the bottom with maybe like Japan or something.
Latam?
I mean, didn't Japan actually do pretty well in the Asia event? I can't remember. Like E36, weren't they an Asian team?
I'm not sure. I haven't got it up, but
yeah, I'm not sure either. But
typically they haven't done well in the past. That's for sure.
Yeah, they haven't really done too well. And they obviously suffer from pretty much the same, like being such a small region compared to these other bigger regions that have a lot more players to work with. But yeah, I think that's how I'd probably rank the regions right now in PUBG.
Obviously we're not going to have those international events, I guess, really. So It sucks that we're not going to be able to see sort of where everyone sits, because one of the things that I really thought of was when I was watching Q Confirm win APAC and how dominant they looked and how strong they looked. And I looked at those guys, Jarman, Gems, JS, and I was like, man, these guys are pretty good. Like, I've watched my fair share of PUBG.
Really good players. Like, watching that event, like, you see these players and they just pull off like crazy things. But when it comes to like a team, it's hard to say, because like the actual region of APAC and all is just like, it's so inconsistent due to the playstyle that they play.
Exactly, but you still want to see them up against EU, NA, Asia, and see how that's going to go.
That's a really bad thing about COVID, is just like we are missing out on like these big international events that would be really fun to watch. Like seeing all the best teams around everywhere compete every single tournament would be absolutely crazy. It's just really unfortunate that it's obviously turned out the way it has.
What's your thoughts on APAC though as a viewer? Because you've been watching along, obviously playing as well, but with the nature of the PUBG Continental Series, you can also sit back and watch the other regions.
Yeah, I pretty much watch every game of every region because it's always good to keep up to date. But
yeah,
like APAC it's a fun region to watch to a degree. As a player, like I always look at these games and I try and see how other regions are going, see what the best teams are, see what they're doing to win. But when I look at APAC, it's just completely different. It feels kind of random. Like it doesn't really feel. I don't want to say not competitive, but like it just doesn't feel like the consistency would be there if they were versing like these other regions that have really like strong basics for each and every team. Like they know what they're doing.
If you watch like EU, for instance, it's so structured and methodical. It's
like when I look at EU and like NA, I think EU is like a really good version of NA.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's kind of like I guess the meta. Just like teams are very methodical in their play.
NA still has its comical moments, and I think that's what holds it back.
Yeah, I think that's mainly due to like the competition being just I'd say a bit worse than what it has been in the past. But I mean that's kind of how it's always been though. Like EU's always been a bit better than NA. In regards to like an overall like standing of each team. I think the top teams, they always can compete in no matter the region. The region doesn't define those top teams. But yeah, I think when I look at APAC, it's just really crazy. I think you confirmed though, like they're definitely the best team in that tournament, which is why they did win it.
But for someone like yourself, who of course used to play Oceania, with the addition of OCE to APAC, well, of course, you're in North America. Nothing's really going to pry you away from that. Had you stayed in OCE, how happy would have you been with the current system, knowing that you've got at least an international event, right? You've got something that you qualify for. There's prize pool for the actual OCE qualifiers. Then, of course, the same prize pool for APAC as it is for North America. Like,
yeah, if I was a top player in OCE, like if I was still playing there, I see that SEA announcement and I'm ecstatic about it. Like when I first heard that, I was like, wow, fucking OCE is actually like a viable region to compete in now. Because you have that chance if you do really well in these SEA events, like you might get picked up by an SEA org, like, and the whole Asia like region, like regards to like the climate of like orgs there, it's a lot different to America and OCE. Like it's actually viable to be.
They got gaming houses and shit like that, right? They win these events, exactly. And it's like winning millions. It's a very different ecosystem.
It's completely different, and now OCE's been shoved in with them, and the best players in OCE should thrive. Like Fury, like they could easily. I could easily see Fury winning one of these APAC events.
Oh, of course. Like they finished 4th, right? And they had a chance at first all the way up to like the last 2 games or so. It's still a decent amount of money. The difference is that the Southeast Asian players can live off these tournaments, their own qualifiers, and then the results in APAC. The Australian players definitely can't. Not only that, but a very short-lived 3 slots is now 2 slots as well. So it kind of makes it difficult for the teams that are not Astra and Fury to make a living trying to just even qualify.
Yeah, it's really hard because like in terms of like an overall region, like it might not be. I mean, there's actually benefits to being just like 2 slots in APAC. Like if you're the best players and like if you grind hard enough and you actually become one of those best players, boom, you've just got a jump into actually making a career of PUBG. But like with how those like how OCE is now, like it's really rough if you're one of those bottom teams trying to just play. Like how OCE has turned out to be is like I know a lot of players just play for fun.
Yeah.
Like it's not really, they don't really care. I mean, obviously they care, like they want to try and do well, but like at the end of the day, they're not living off PUBG. They've got their own
besides
jobs.
Fury and Astra, there's really no one else that can expect to even attempt to make this a living. And even then, those players in particular have got reasons for why they're able to do this.
Yeah, I mean, you have Bay, obviously, which is what half
Well, I mean,
half
they'll
SCA, but
if they're
that's it.
smart, they'll go back and play Malaysia quals.
Yeah, that's probably what I think they'll end up doing. But yeah, I agree with that. Like it's you just have Astra and Fury really that are just at the top, and the chance of like beating them is, I mean, there's a chance. There's a decent chance if you like perform well enough. Like Carnage, like if they take a lot from APAC and they become like a really good team, like there's a chance that could happen. Like over time, they could build themselves as a team, and maybe like reach up to compete there. I think the potential, like I want to touch on the new Astra roster.
Yeah.
Like shout out to Nico, but he's a player that he hasn't really been on a top team ever. He's never really, like, he had Ferox, which was all right, and now he's an Astra. But before that, he never really did anything. But he's such like a mechanically skilled player that has a lot of potential. So if they can build Nico up to be like a really good player, and then the team ends up gelling as well, like I could really see them potentially contesting Curie for like that top 1 OC spot.
I feel like the success of Astra comes down to how long they can keep Linksy.
That is true. I think they are possibly like another lost player away from potentially just ruining any chance of maybe building another successful team. I think it was actually really good that after all this time, like when they had the Flood Xtreme Zoid like core, like I think it's really good that they end up, even though it was Flood's decision to leave, I think it was really good that they kind of just overhauled the team. Like they just needed like a big change.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. They'd been in a funk, and obviously I've had Xtreme and Linksy on the podcast, so gotten a lot of insight into things surrounding that, especially Flood joining Bay. Really, an offer that he couldn't refuse. I don't think no one really held any ill will there. But this iteration, this Astra roster, and as you said, Niku's is just gifted, but needs time. Needs a lot of probably the year. He needs the whole year on that team.
Yeah, I think it needs probably till the end of the year, like they could become a really strong team. But even there, like it's how far, like even for these top base teams, like unless they get signed by an org, like the chance of them staying 100% motivated.
But do they need an organization? Because it's the same topic as North America.
I don't think so. I don't think they do. But I in regards to like the climate, are they gonna stay 100% motivated to just like keep calling for these events and just like learn from it? Like say they go to the next event and they do absolutely terrible. What are the chances? Say Zoid, maybe this is like, I might be done with PUBG. Who knows? Like I feel like that could be a possibility.
I wouldn't be surprised. Zoid hasn't been playing as much PUBG recently. A lot of WoW and all of
it's hard to enjoy the game when all you're doing and all they like Zoid's been doing is just been calling for these events, just playing the events.
It's been like 3 years now.
Yeah, like it's really like he's been doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it's hard to stay motivated. It really is.
I think the comment you made before about a Southeast Asian organization picking up OCE teams is something that I'm surprised hasn't really happened yet. Now that, of course, they're playing in APAC, so when you think of it as like the marketplace is pretty much a right fit now. Like picking up a team like Fury, even though Fury is an org, right? There are bigger organizations in Southeast Asia, and pick up Astra, for instance, when they're going to be playing in APAC. That's viewership that is in your country, that is in your region. Yep. Like it makes a lot of sense, and then they can also offer these teams a lot better deals than the Oceanic Orcs can. Yeah,
I mean, I look at both those teams, and I struggle to think they haven't actually been approached by ASA orgs. Maybe that there's definitely I feel like they've definitely got offers that probably aren't worth their time, which is I feel like what's probably happened. I mean, I might be completely wrong with that.
It could just also be a lack of communication to finding the right organizations.
That's another struggle. I think Fury has a lot better connections to SEA than Astra, which is why I think they're probably going to be the team that might get an SEA org if they end up do signing one. I think they'll be the first team to do it. But yeah, like it's staying like motivated. Like I know when I signed to Lazarus, like it puts you in a business mindset. Compared to just like staying all right, I want to have fun. I want to do well at this event so I can make something of myself. It's like you've now what you set out what to what you wanted to accomplish, and now it's your job, and now you want to do the best at your job as possible.
Yeah, no,
Like
I agree.
It's like a complete overhaul in terms of mindset, in my opinion.
Casting's the same as well in that regard too. When I started out, it was just for fun and whatever. Who cares? Then you do it for these years.
You start getting those big events, and it's just like it's a completely different.
Got to do a really good job here. Got to do this. Got to do that. And it's, it turns play into work, and I guess the same can be said for even just being a competitive player. But for yourself, you're still pretty young. I think you only turned 20 this year, in fact. So you're still
20 in probably a few months or so.
You're still a spring chicken. I mean, and considering, look, I don't think PUBG's going away anywhere, and the ping cap thing, who knows what happens with that. So really, in your mind, you're probably still thinking at least 2021 should be all North America, barring you getting dropped or something.
Like when I think about PUBG, is like, I don't think it dies until PUBG makes it die. Like they're obviously we've had the issues in the past, but like if they're making money out of it, I don't see why they would stop. Because I think over PCS1, like with the numbers that came out with the pick'ems or whatever, I think they're probably going to end up making money off PCS1, to be honest.
Yeah, I would be surprised.
And if it keeps going that way, like I don't see why they wouldn't do another year.
You got to think about the amount of money that they have saved from not doing the 2019 format with EU, NA, all the lands, all the flying, all the hotels.
Last year was probably the biggest waste of money they've done as a company. In regards to
the views, that technically the viewership as well has gone up.
I think that's mainly a
except for EU, probably, but. Well, yeah, but who gives a shit? That's still.
I mean, yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. I actually really like that. And I think if the viewership continues to rise, I don't see why PUBG wouldn't be successful as an esport.
Like North America last year was getting anywhere from like maybe 2 to 4K.
Yeah,
it was pretty bad. Like it was real, and when you're looking at the product that was on your screen, the arena and everything,
it was the most insane like level of production that I've
100%. The OGN guys are great. I loved working with them for PGC, but the viewership just wasn't matching the product.
Yeah.
Now you look at PCS, it's like
we got more views, didn't we? Yeah, like 8K or whatever it was. Yeah,
it's more than doubled the viewers for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
And the product costs 99% less money. Like it's just the casters are sitting at home. They've got the little banner behind them or whatever. Like and then the players are at home. It's just the amount of money they would have saved is ridiculous. Now everyone I've spoken to has always said this is what they should have been doing from the start.
Yeah. I think maybe like in the future they could have looked at doing leagues, but I think it's these one-off tournaments are just, well, I guess not one-off tournaments, but I just guess like more third-party tournaments plus these like online like regional tournaments is what it should have been, because there's no reason to be running these massive leagues when. Like, I feel like PUBG limited themselves last year just so much because you weren't allowed to run third-party tournaments. Like, other than like Asia, I think Asia quite a bit because that's a completely different landscape. But like NA, I don't think had any third-party tournaments that you were actually allowed to play in. Like, you weren't allowed to play in third-party tournaments as a pro player.
Things like 303.
Yeah. You weren't. I don't think you were allowed to play in 303 or like any other leagues. Which is dumb. I don't know why it's.
So they could run the tournaments, but you just couldn't play in them.
I don't. Well, I think you had to get permission from PUBG Corp, and a lot of the time, PUBG Corp didn't give permission. Right,
that's interesting because that's relatively common. I mean, I know Overwatch has been like that for a very, very long time, where that's why all you see from them is contenders and Overwatch League, and that's it because you're not allowed to run third-party tournaments. Valorant is going to be the exact same thing when you look at the League of Legends. Landscape now. The early days of League of Legends was all third party, and that's why the grassroots for that was so strong. And now it's just all in house.
Yeah, I really enjoy like these. Like if you had a league that had the top 16 best teams in the world, and you had that playing like instead of like just a one-off tournament, I'd really enjoy that. Like I'd actually really enjoy that, and seeing these teams consistently play against each other all the time. I feel like viewers would love to see that, but it's not something you can do at this stage in PUBG.
Well, no,
It just it
logistically
doesn't
that
make
would be a
sense.
bit of a nightmare as well.
Yeah, it would. It
I
definitely would be.
I think the coronavirus has been a blessing in disguise for PUBG, for North America, for Asia, for APAC, Europe. Europe's always been the healthiest region, along with along with Asia, of course. Asia's kind of in their own world, but if we look at the Western world, Europe's been healthy. I wouldn't have been surprised if like they would have been able to maybe sustain the model from 2019 in Europe. They wouldn't have been running at a profit, but it could have probably been sustainable. But North America was bleeding.
So the one thing about the system they had is the reason why orgs were in there is just because of that viewership. There's so much more viewership in regards to like every weekend there's a game on, you get like 4K viewers, 3K viewers, or whatever it is, and every single weekend there's 2 days of a weekend every week is you're gonna be having those viewers. But now it's like you have these 4 days of this tournament. Why would we pay a team every single month just for 4 days of 3 months?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of orgs are actually trying to do right now is in NA, especially the ones that we've been offered by, is they're not looking for viewership. They don't care about the viewership anymore. They just want to try and make some money off prize pool, which is dumb. Like why would you, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like how it should be, in my opinion.
What do you think of the fact that we're going to have PCS2, which is just going to be a replica of PCS1 again? It's going to be the exact same thing. But then after that, I don't know what's going to be after that. There's a mystery event, isn't there? Well, that was one of the leaks I saw from, might have been Subsidized, I can't remember. Yeah. And they were like, oh, it seems like, I think it was around either November or December that PUBG want to see if maybe something international is going to work. I don't think they'll get anything. The borders are going to be still closed.
I just don't see how anyone from America is going to be leaving America anytime soon. Like no. I just like I don't see how
Australia and for
it's not leaving, but being allowed into any other country. Like I don't see how it can happen. No. Which I personally with COVID, I think it might even end up being maybe a lot of next year as well, which is
especially the first half of next year. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if things don't go back to normal until 2023.
Yeah, that's and when
I mean normal, I mean like sort of just back to 2019 normal, right?
Yeah.
Like 2022, maybe things get opened up. You can get exceptions and things like that. But yeah,
I think COVID's definitely going to play, like especially esports in general, for quite some time. Yeah. Like a long time. I think like the
but I think in a good way. I think there's a good nature to this, right? Because
I think there's good and bad.
The good thing that I get out of this is I think the understanding of trying to push something too quickly too soon. Like esports has had a rapid growth in just the last 5-6 years, massive. That now everyone wants to put on these massive tournaments, lights in here, lights in, so everyone flies in, hotels, blah blah blah. That's great, but it costs a lot of money. And you look at the way that like all these PCS events were run, all the casters were at home, all the talent, all the players were at home, everyone all at home, and yet it all ran smooth.
Yeah, I look at PCS1 and it actually makes you like really hopeful for the future. Just because like in terms of costs, there's like barely any cost for PUBG, like compared to what they were doing with last year and what they probably would have been doing with the PGS series. Like there was obviously going to be a lot more codes running it at a LAN event. But like if they can, like over the next year and probably 2 years, if they can continue to just build like the viewership, and there's a lot more fans within the scene, which is, I feel like that's what's happened with PCS1, like with the Pick'ems. There's so many more people watching PUBG and like getting invested into PUBG, like because they want to support the team they voted for. And in the end of the day, like that makes fans for those teams if they do well.
Yep, exactly.
Like I've seen, like after winning PCS1, we had so many messages from so many people, like Chinese fans, like people from Pakistan, like There's people you've never seen before, but now
India
they say
yeah.
they say you're their fans forever now. Like it's crazy to think.
I think that having everything on the main channel was something that needed to be done a while
that's
ago.
Definitely something that needed to be done. Like it's crazy. How dumb is that not to run everything on the same channel? That's pretty crazy to me.
Yep.
I expect even just like calling it Play Battlegrounds, how dumb that is compared to just having it PUBG
/ PUBG. Yeah.
Yeah.
They've made a lot of really good moves.
Yeah, they've made some really good changes. Yeah.
When Small came in and was asking everyone, including myself, you know, oh, what do you think of this, and this? And the first thing I said to him was like, put everything on the main channel.
Yeah.
Do it. Everything should be on the main channel.
It makes sense. It's the most logical thing to
do.
The
regions should feel more connected rather than separate. Like not necessarily the same, but should all just feel the way that it was done, right? Is like you would have the APAC event, and then I'd be able to sign off as a customer, be like, well, North America's on soon. Then the North America guys can come on and be like, hey, welcome, blah blah blah. We had APAC before. Like make everything just feel PUBG as a family all over the world, rather than the way it was.
When I look at the changing it to just all on the same channel, it's realistically it's quite literally just the same tournament across the world in all these regions. Why wouldn't you run on the same channel? You leave those, obviously, like GLL is going to be on the GLL channel, but that's fine. Like that's how it should be. Like you should be running these PUBG official events on the PUBG channel. I mean,
it's on Face It. It's GLL. It's on GLL. If it's fucking MSI, Intel, ESL, whatever, sure, you can have it elsewhere, but 100%. If it's a PUBG run tournament, which is what PCS is, no excuse to not have it there.
I think it's really good that they have made those changes, and especially with the casters as well. They've been doing a really good job to tie in every region. Like you mentioned that before. Like when I think about it, like I go back and I'm remembering all these times that all these casters are saying about the other region. Like it just it's actually really good from the casters. That's something I didn't notice beforehand.
You get the graphics as well. Actually, one of the graphics I loved the most on the final day was it compared the top 5 from each region, and you could see them. You guys actually had just finished the day before, so we were able to touch on that, be like, oh yeah, shoot to kill 1, and how awesome was that? Now we got APAC, and then tomorrow we got Asia, like, and it's just a way of making it feel like the people watching can get to know all the regions, because EU has the most fan base in terms of the Western audience, and you see it in the chat, you see it in the viewership, and the hope is I'd like to see the EU talent. I'd like to see the EU community get behind the other regions a bit more. Noticeably, when EU was on, I saw like Toffee's in there, Paper Thin in there, a lot of the NA guys were in there. Don't really see it as much though the other way around all the time, but it'll come. I mean, it'll come with time, and then there's also time zone issues as well.
Yeah, to be fair, there is the time zone thing, but it probably does come over time. I mean, they might just be lurking as well, you know.
Well, yeah, it could also be just lurking. I know. I mean, to be fair, the last day I was lurking, and I typically lurk almost all of them anyway.
I was we were watching in a viewing party last night, just watching PCS EU, and we're just having so much fun just reading the chat and just reading everyone that's just flaming these teams. It's almost the funnest thing. It's just funny to see how people get so invested into hating people that they don't even know. It's pretty funny.
Do you read those sort of comments? Like I don't know how much hate you get. Do you even really get hate?
I mean, sometimes when you look back at the games, especially like when you watch yourself, like you know you're gonna win a game, or you know you're gonna throw a game. Like you're watching the game because there's obviously a delay between each game and stuff. You watch the games, you see some comments, but like if you let those get to you, like it's you can't let it get to you. I don't see why you should.
No.
Because it's at the end of the day, you're doing what you're doing. They've got nothing to do with you at all. They're saying their opinion on something, and yeah, it's whatever, you know.
I think that just goes for anyone in general, though, right? You shouldn't really let Twitch chat get to you. I mean, like
it's a bit like Mime, in my opinion. Like if I let him get to me, like it's like, what am I doing? Like it's, I don't know.
I didn't ask it before, but like, is he the only one that really holds that view in North America to your knowledge?
No, there's definitely other people for sure.
Right.
I mean, as severe as him, and he's up there at the top. He's definitely the top. But there's definitely, I know that there's 100% other people that think I shouldn't be playing on NA because I have an advantage. Like, but at the end of the day, if I had lower ping, I'd actually be playing better. And it's I don't know, it's a bit weird.
But you had low ping when you were there for 2-3 months.
Yeah, I don't think like a lot of people have said, like, I think like Snakers or something was saying, like, obviously he's got kind of the same view as me. Is it's not the competitive integrity, obviously it's in question.
Yeah.
But in regards to it, like holding it against me personally as a player, like saying that I wouldn't be able to do what I do if I was playing on low ping, that's not in question.
For PCS2, is there any? What's the expectations? Because you've won now, you finally got that top spot. As we sort of look a little bit to the future here for you guys as a team and for yourself, is it to win again? Is it just to 100%, play well?
Yeah. I think one thing I do want to do over the next like couple of months or so leading up to the event is.
Mate, it's a bit closer than a couple of months.
Well, I think it's, what is it, like 2 months till it legitimately like starts.
Maybe your qualifiers might be a little bit longer, a bit more drawn out.
Yeah, maybe. But I know we're playing group stage in like 3 weeks or something, whatever it is. But when it comes to the finals, I want to be like a much stronger team. Like I want to fix up those mistakes, like build on our play a bit, and just like get better and better. And I mean, obviously the goal is to win. Like I think, like I said earlier, like our goal was to win every single tournament this year in NA.
Do you think then, obviously Wildcard improved a lot in this tournament for PCS1. Zenox, I'm sure, are going to want to bounce back like big time. They've got a lot to prove as well. Oath, Zenith, like the competition for, it feels like the top 5, top 6 teams in North America should.
I think top 5, yeah.
Should be about the same for PCS2, you reckon?
Yeah, I don't see too much of a change at all in regards to that.
So it's a little bit like in OCE, how it's usually just the top 2, but in North America's case, it's more like the top 5, right?
Yeah, that's how I kind of see it. Is like NA's got a bit more better teams. Like that's about it, really, compared to those.
Well, I mean, look, what can we do, man? All our good players just keep fucking leaving, right? Like you included, like you know.
I mean, it's I mean OCE, it's hard. Like I don't know. It's hard to say how to fix OCE. It's just such a small region. It's PUBG's. It's not a great esport in such a small region. Like it's so hard to like build there. But it's I don't know. It's hard.
North America's the same as well because it's just on a larger scale. Everything about North America feels similar to Oceania, but just on a larger scale.
That's one thing I have noticed. Like especially after MPL, like I kind of thought that it would turn into OC basically just with like quite a bit more players. That's about it, really.
Yeah, like the players coming through, and there's no real pathway. And I'm talking basically for both OCE and North America here. Like the pathway system's fucked. Most of the servers for North America aren't that greatly populated. There's a lot of bots running around, and obviously OCE is like 90% bots. It's hard to sort of gauge new players because there really aren't too many. Most of them aren't that good. So you're just recycling, and recycling. And North America seems the same. Like they just seem like they're recycling the same players.
It pretty much is. I think everyone's just recycling players right now. I mean, there actually is some new talent coming up here and there. Like there's like Illusion. No one thought about them at all until like the PCS group stage and stuff like that. They played really well in the quals, and they ended up being some like really good players. So like that's like more injection into the scene, I guess. I mean, they didn't do too well in PCS1, I don't think. But like they're better players, like that are coming into the scene. But OC is just like, I feel like they're not getting those like small like injections of like good players. I think like it's just kind of just stayed the same. It's very like stale.
Yeah, and any players that would potentially be interested are probably off going playing Valorant tournaments right now and other games.
Yeah.
Like that's the truth of it, really.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, PUBG as a game is like, it's not a competitive game. Like, it's not.
No.
PUBG's focus is the casual TPP audience. Like, that's their main focus. I mean, ranked has actually been. I actually really enjoy ranked. I thought I was never gonna play ranked, to be honest, but I've been playing it a tiny bit. Like, play a couple games every night. Just
It's a
like,
start. It's a start.
It's a start. I mean, there's a lot of improvements they can make.
The esports tab is a really good start as well.
I really like the esports tab. That's a really good addition
because it just introduces people to the esports side of it, where you're gonna have at least some guy out there who plays PUBG regularly, clicks on that tab and is like, oh shit, like I can, you know, I want to be on that page. I want to be in the esports tab. You know what I mean? Like, how do I do that? And if he's in OCE, a couple of Google searches probably wouldn't take too long. He'd probably find PUBG OCE or something, or Premier Scrims, and then work his way into the scene. But I think one thing that the Oceanic and even NA scenes really need is easier ways to get those new people into these systems.
Yeah, I think it's a bit hard for OCE because like I don't know what they're probably not gonna have they're gonna get rid of the esports tab in a few days or whatever. And
see, I don't think they should. They may as well just leave it and say, leave all the stats, leave all of it, and just be like, hey, you know, PCS1's over, PCS2's coming here. Why get rid of it?
That's the one thing I think they could do better. Like, it's actually really good that we have the esports tab, but there needs to be like a tab with a live feed or whatever, like showing games. Like CS, like they have like a pretty much in the main menu they show the games that are going on.
I know League of Legends does that in their client, and it's
and it's not just like PUBG official events. It's just like, it's like, so like the qualifiers for OC. I don't see why you couldn't have the esports tab just show like all the qualifiers for everything, like live stuff like that. And I guarantee it's not going to happen. Like esports tab will just be removed before all that shit happens.
Yeah. No, I hope not. But who knows with PUBG? Well, speaking of who knows, though, so we kind of just wind things down a little bit. Where do you see yourself in a few years? Is it still just plugging away in North America, or are you just taking it every few months at a time?
Well, I think a few years is hard. I think if PUBG had the same infrastructure and history as like CS, like I'd say I'd still be playing this, blah blah blah. But I think PUBG is like very up in the air at the moment. It's hard to say where I'll be going, so I'm kind of just taking it like almost month by month, but probably just like year by year. I think that's the main way I'll be taking it right now, seeing what their plans are for each year, see if it's still fine, see if it's all good. But I'm kind of just like plugging away at the moment, just seeing what's happening, really.
If your time with Shoot to Kill came to an end, whether it was your decision or not, would you be trying your absolute best to stay in North America, or would you look at the APAC system and say, hey, why not? I'll just go join Astra and
if I was ever to leave Shoot to Kill, I think it would definitely be EU is where I'd look.
EU? To move 100%. There?
I mean, ideally, move over to EU. But I'd definitely consider like joining, say, another NA team, or like come back to OCE and see if that is like something I'd be interested in, you know, like with potentially getting an SEA org and actually being able to stay in Australia probably.
Well, what if you were to move to Southeast Asia? What if it was like you and like Flood and like, I don't know, 2 other SEA people, and you were like living in Southeast Asia? You were getting pretty easy qualifications into APAC. You were getting an org. You had money, a house. That doesn't sound horrible.
It's not horrible, but like as a player, like I never really like look for what's gonna give me like the most money in terms of like joining a team, like in terms of like,
you want to play against the best. You want to play in the EU, NA.
I couldn't stand like, no disrespect to the old Bay, but like being Neff there, like if I was in Neff shoes, I wouldn't be able to play on that team. Playing like knowing that you're on a team that's never gonna do well, like internationally or like even in your own region. Like, I mean, they do well in Malaysia and stuff, Singapore, but like in regards to the whole SEA, like knowing that you're never going to be the best in SEA, I couldn't do that. I'd always want to be on the best team possible. I'd always want to be trying to like challenge myself, and if I think I can like make something of something, like that's obviously something I consider.
I mean, that says a lot about sort of your integrity to wanting to be competitive, which, you know, is very much respectable. The willingness to move to EU, for instance. I don't know if you'd be able to move to Asia and play in Korea. That's probably unlikely.
I mean, the language. I'd love to do that. I mean, I'd like
I think it'd be cool.
In an ideal world, I speak fluent Korean. And I'm living in Korea, you know. But
Yeah.
Obviously,
1,000 gigabytes a second.
Yep.
You know, 2 ping.
Living in a team house, getting those fat stacks, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that. That's just not realistic unless I went and learned how to speak a different language, really.
Well, I mean, Europe. If you're ever thinking of Europe in the far future, you may have to learn Russian or German or
maybe. But luckily Europe is majority, I'd say, can speak English. Yeah. Obviously, but there's like those CIS teams which are pretty much at the top at the moment, like Northern Lights and
FaZe.
TE doing really well.
But obviously that's all hypothetical. That's all future stuff. For the most part, you obviously want to stay in North America and stay with the boys. What's it like playing with?
In a really good spot at the moment.
What's it like playing with Purdy Curdy, Uncivil, and Alo? Like, obviously you get along with them well, and is it like a family atmosphere, or is it just?
It's really good. Like, we all understand what we need to do. We understand. That's the one good thing I think about the teams I've looked at. I've only been on like one toxic team, and that was the first ever team I was on, and it was just mainly because of one player. No disrespect to him, but he just like gets a bit heated all the time.
Was that Osiris?
Yeah, it was like it was Angry Smurfs at the time, or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've been on like pretty much 3 rosters, which is that roster, Greyhound, and then STK. And I've been lucky because it's never been toxic at all, and it's always been like really like productive and like constructive criticism, like in regards to if there are any like arguments or something. So it's like really is just like a family.
When I had Waikiki Mukau on though, he did say there was a chance maybe that you could have played for Order / Incognito, but you really wanted to play with Xtreme. Was that the case?
Yeah, back then, I really was a nobody. I went I was with Osiris at the time, or whatever it was called, F7 or something. And I ended up just saying that I ended up just leaving the team because I knew I couldn't like get anywhere with that team. Like, I knew I could possibly join like a Greyhound or like an Order or an Avant at the time, or with Nick Kasun and Kozi.
It wasn't a bad team back then.
I think they were the best team currently.
Old Kasun was pretty good.
Yep, Old Kasun was full form back then. So I think I was LFT for like a month or so. And no one really wanted to trial me since I hadn't really done anything. And Order was actually a team that were interested in me. They said they wanted to trial me, and I was really excited to, since that was the best offer I had. And I actually ended up really liking my time playing with that team. And to this date, like I think I could easily play on a team with like Waikiki, well, pretty much everyone on that team. Like, it's like they're similar to Shoot to Kill. I think like it seems like a family, you know. And I think phase 1, pretty much every night I played SCA scrims with anyone on that team basically. So I was basically playing on that team for a lot of the time, and it really does mesh well. So I wonder, sometimes I think like, what would have happened if I ended up joining that team instead of Greyhound back then, and
we would have gone to face it most likely.
Yeah. Probably, yeah.
GLL would have been completely different though.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully I'd obviously make a difference there, but
it just wouldn't have been the same storyline though.
Yeah,
but comparing those teams to that Atletico team, was that also like a family, or was that different? Was
the
that
GLL
more
team?
Yeah, we'll say the GLL team.
Right. Yeah. I definitely think so. So like when I joined Greyhound, like I joined a lot for Xtreme. I really looked up to Xtreme as a player and considered him a friend. And so we played together on that team for like 3 months or so, and then he went to NA.
Yeah.
And then eventually he came back, and it was just like, well, here we go. We've got the band back together, you know, and now we've got some fresh blood and flood, and we're ready to frag out, really. And I was just like, it was a family as well. Like, I still have really good friends with all of them to date, you know?
It feels like that specific roster didn't even really play together that long at the peak. Like, once GLL finished and you were getting offers.
I think it might be a bit different now if I ended up staying with that roster as well. I wonder what it would be like if I stayed with that roster.
Well, but, I wonder what it would have been like had the entire roster got an offer to like move overseas or something, right? Like taking the entire players.
I think with the rules though, like
no, fuck the rules. I'm saying if there was no rules, like and you could take all four.
That's definitely something I would have considered. Like I even considered just staying in general, like without any offers at all. So it's like if we were getting offers to like play as a team, getting paid as a team, stuff.
Did it come into your mind that because PGC was around the corner, like you knew the layout of PGC, you knew how it was going to work, the OCE LAN, and let's be real, anyone worth their salt knew that was going to qual.
Yep.
Surely. And whereas for you going and to North America, it might have been a little bit more difficult. Like it wouldn't have been as certain, a bit more risky. But I guess when you weigh all of the pros and cons, it was always going to be an easier choice to go to North America. Like,
yeah.
Did you ever think about potentially going to PGC with Ath and then making the move to NA?
That is possibly the main decision that swayed how deciding to move to America. That was the main key thing is, do I think this team that I'm joining will make it to PGC and do well at PGC? And I trialed with them, I played with them, and I knew what they achieved in the past, and I knew that we would have qualified to PGC. We did well at PGC. I mean, we didn't do well, but like we got first place in semifinals, which means we would have done good if we actually played well.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's what would have happened, but I think I weighed up the pros and cons, and I thought STK Lazarus was pretty similar to the Atletico roster in regards to what we could achieve. Plus, there's also further in the career in North America. It just makes sense.
I think hindsight says you made the right decision.
100%. Yeah,
and
I agree.
Either way, I think you're always gonna look at the adventure of going to North America and everything, and that just would have outweighed everything. But
yeah, it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, who's the best player you've ever played with? Like as a teammate.
That's odd. Oh god. Damn, you put me on the spot here.
There's probably a part of you that's like, I've got to say someone from STK, don't I?
I do think it's someone from STK.
Is it Purdy?
I mean, it's hard to say because like Purdy, Civ, and Alo, like they're all completely different players in my eyes. Like they're just like completely different. I think Purdy's, especially recently, like he's been doing like really well recently, and he's been improving. So he's definitely up there. I think if I look at Astra, I looked at Zoid, and what we managed to accomplish is like almost like a duo. Like because me and him like the main brains behind like Atletico in regards to like how we wanted to play as a team, and stuff like that, and how we played. Like I think he's probably, if I picked a duo, like me and a player, I think he'd probably be the player. Like back in, like if he's full prime and like playing.
Are you saying he's washed right now?
Yes, I don't. I'll give him some shit for just he plays Tarkov and WoW every day. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still do well, but like it's obviously different if you're actually playing the game you play. But I think Zoid's definitely up there, especially since like I played with him for so long, like over a year, and we managed to like create something like really good, especially like at GLL, obviously GLL, like that's what we managed to accomplish, and then
I'm gonna keep this one just to North America though. But who's the best player you've played against that playing enough games in North America now where you look at and say, okay, this guy keeps getting me, or this guy's really good, or I noticed this guy a lot, like in North America?
That's hard to say. I think at the time it was probably I know I feel like I really was in America for like when everyone it was just phase 3 when I had like all the good players. I will go ahead and say I think Zampa is the best North American player to ever play in America. In regards to what he does for a team and what he provided to Tempo was insane compared to what some people probably realize. I think he's probably the best player, and then I'd say like Sharky, K Mines, Relo at the moment, especially when he's in form, he's a nuts player. I think those are like the top players up there.
Where do you rate yourself against Relo? Because you two were in that MVP vote, obviously. And I'm pretty sure it was like you were first and he was second, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the MVP vote was more just popularity contest, which I think Relo played a really good event. He got a lot of clutches that event. In terms of raw stats, I had the most like overall stats, but like in terms of actual MVP moments, he probably had more, in my opinion.
It's a hard one. It's a hard one to really judge, especially in a game like PUBG, where it's a very team-orientated game.
I mean, you definitely saw, especially on the stream, like you see him like clutching it up all the time for his team that event. And he played really well.
And that's the thing, though. Like, actually, that stats don't always tell the story of is that if you're clutching up this certain situation, maybe you only pick up 2 kills or something, but like it was a really clutch moment, really difficult thing to pick off. Versus, say, Luke12 picking up 5 or 6 easy frags. Like, stats-wise, says the 5 or 6 easy frags is better.
Yeah, I mean the thing is like stats can lie and they can also not tell anything at all. So it's like it's just you could be doing the stats could tell the truth and say you're doing really well, or you're just like so you hit the last bullet on a shot and you get an extra kill. Like it doesn't really fucking matter. Just at the end of the day, if you're winning the tournament, like I think that's the main thing. If I had to rate myself in America, I don't think I could. No. I think I'm up there. I don't want to rate myself as a player. It's not really something.
No,
I'm comfortable with doing. But I think I can beat every single player in America. There's no doubt about that.
Not gonna ask you to rate yourself, but like rating Shoot to Kill as a team. If we were to take you guys, you've just won PCS1, and just plop you into EU PCS2, how do you perform?
I definitely put ourselves up there. We would have been up there fighting to win the tournament.
And let's say you guys are all in Europe. Like, there's no ping.
Yeah, obviously. I think we can easily compete. Because he's very similar to NA in regards to play style. Me, as STK, I think we actually try better in higher competition because we understand a bit better like what's going on, who's doing what, and all that. And it just gives us a bit more comfortability, I guess.
What if we were to drop you into APAC?
That's one. That's one thing I've joked about. Is that if I had to come back to OCE, like I don't know. It's just like I'd hate to play in APAC just because.
How do you think the other 3 would handle it? Like, I don't know how much you've actually played against the SCA besides maybe just some scrims. You've probably played a fair few SCA scrims, but like Purdy, Civ, Alo, would they be able to handle the APAC? Just,
I mean, I'd say yeah. Like the thing is, like everyone would be extremely frustrated at first, but once you like you play like a 2 tournaments or so, like it's pretty easy to adapt.
I feel like they'd be the kind of guys to be sitting back getting breached phase 2, being like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Probably. I mean, that's probably what most reactions are to when you first play APAC. But I think it would just take some time as a team to just learn the new meta, because it really is like probably the most like unique meta compared to all the other other regions. It's just like completely different from every other region. So
I'd say PCS1 slowed down a little bit. It wasn't as crazy as Charity Showdown, which was just.
I wouldn't say crazy. I don't like saying crazy, because it's really not that crazy when you think about it. It's more just the teams,
I don't know. There were some games in Charity Showdown that were pretty fucking wild. Like Breach's phase 1.
Yeah. But I just think like overall, there's just like that hint of like I guess, craziness. Like, say one team decides, all right, for no reason at all, this game we're gonna be the team that breaches center circle 1 instead of every other game. So there's no like, these teams don't have a consistency to them except for QC, which I think, and like those teams, and I mean a couple of the teams that did well, they consistently did the same thing all the time, basically.
Yeah. We're going to end things very, very shortly here, but one last topic, a little bit of a controversial one in regards to APAC and collusion. How much of that did you, I guess, sort of witness where you sitting back as a viewer? And was it something that you looked at and was like, yeah, there's something fishy going on here?
Yeah. I mean, knowing like all the extra bit of info as well, is I look at that and I just think it's like, it's kind of disgusting that it's kind of that they do that. I mean, there is a world where in the slightest chance that they're not actually teaming, but everything points to that they're being a bit dirty with how they're playing. And even though it's controversial, I think PUBG should do something about it. I think the best way to do something about it is just get rid of the, like we were saying, like you can't have multiple teams. Like as soon as this event is over, I could easily see that team getting picked up by the org again. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're probably still on the org, but just with a different name, you know. But like just like making sure that these teams aren't on the same org together. Like
they used to be part of Victim. They were Victim Shooter, and it was Victim Rise, and there was like another Victim one. There was Victim something H.
I might be a bit biased as well, but I've played against those Victim players, and they in like the Onslaught League when I played with Fury like 2 seasons, and I will say that their ethics are definitely not there. They have done stuff which is not competitive integrity.
In my eyes, and the main reason why I'm bringing this up is just based on recency. Obviously, it hasn't really got anything to do involving you. You just happened to be the guest on at the time. Well, this sort of all plays out.
I mean, I really don't know too much about it. Right. I've seen what's happened. I've got my opinions of it. But
imagine this was happening in like EU or NA. It'd be all over the shop. But because it's in APAC, it just doesn't get the same reach.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I feel like it's hard to say it would happen like NA and EU. Like it'd be very easy to tell if it did happen. Just because I mean, we obviously, I think the main reason is.
Have you seen you've probably seen the picture that that Cow tweeted out.
Posted, with all 3 looting
BTS,
together.
VTR, VTH all looting, like Picardo, Power Grid, and shit like that. And it's just like, are you fucking kidding me? And then like when you go back and watch that, like somehow none of them run into each other. Well, then there's the video.
When I look at that, I know they're not like straight up like teaming, like obviously fighting teams together. Like that's obvious cheating. But
I don't think anyone's saying they're like straight up like
but there's
making it an 8-on-4.
Yeah, so the dodgy thing of like they've obviously, and especially in that scenario where they all loot together, is they've all got their rotates planned out already, and they've told the other teams what they're doing, so they know what positions to take. I haven't seen the games, obviously, of the quals, but I'd be very unsurprised to see that they never fought Circle 1, any of their team.
And there was a video that Edge posted as well with them in church on Miramar, how Eagle Sentinel Shooter were literally shooting at other teams while Victim Rise were inside the church, like literally inside the church. And it's like they didn't even care.
Yeah, I mean, that one's a bit hard because like there's a scenario where you say, "Oh, we didn't want to risk pushing something and losing players," but I don't know. It's not. It's something.
Well, then the last one is also, of course, involving Astra. You know, your former team and everything, and I was very much aware of it. The scrims and the issues that Astra's been having in scrims with Victim Rise and Eagle Sentinel Shooter and Watertown and Roshawk and everything. It certainly requires an inquiry, but the problem is, and this goes back to those scrims, the proof is so small.
It's not.
How do you really say that they like? Oh, they can say, okay, we want Watertown here because of this, and this, but then in the real games, yes, we know they didn't go Watertown. We've seen that they went Ferry, but now they've fucked up Astra scrims and then they forced them to Severny.
Yeah, I mean,
then
it's just not. I like when it's so up in the air when you look at the proof. because at the end of the day, you can play however you fucking want in PUBG. Like
Mm.
you can
Yep.
do whatever you want. But like when it's the scenario is it's a bit dodgy, but it's really hard to get proof on anything even if it is happening, you know.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And look, it's it's a tricky situation. It's one that has been. It's not the first time that we'll say SEA has been involved in these sort of allegations. It's certainly a region that skirts the line as much as they can, and I think
Yeah.
a large reason for that is that there isn't an official PUBG directory down there. You know what I mean? Like it's all run by like geek events and shit like that, and it can be
Yeah.
very dodgy because of that. I think the biggest thing that needs to happen, not necessarily just from this, but there needs to be more direct PUBG involvement with Southeast Asia and APAC moving forward. They need to be in control of everything more than
Yeah, I
just
can
a
agree
third
with
party.
that. Yeah, I think in regards to the whole PUBG scene, I think every region needs to have the same rules for everything, and like the same sort of structure in every single region. Because like when you look at it, like APAC and Asia have like the new stats thing. That's just completely different from like NA EU, and there's also the fact that APAC has the anti-cheat shit, and no other region has that. Coaches in EU can talk to their players whilst mid game in the tournament, while every other region you can't. Like it just doesn't make sense for everything to be so different.
Which is strange when there's a super rule set as well that everyone follows. Like, why not just?
It doesn't make sense. I don't know why it's not in the super rule set. You know, I'm pretty sure like coaches don't exist in the super rule set, so I guess it is a bit of leeway, but it just needs to be changed as well.
Well, it feels like there's always things that need changing and evolving with PUBG. That's the nature of it. I don't think we'll ever find that sweet spot where everything's sunshine and daisies.
Well, not everyone can be happy. This is not how it can be, you know.
Certainly not, but I'm happy that you joined me on this podcast today, mate. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts and opinions and such, and sort of just taking us through what was a very crazy PCS1 North America finish as well. Any final things you want to say before we wrap this up?
It's been fun being on the podcast. I guess shout out to all of STK, everyone that supports us at STK. Shout out to everyone on Astra as well. AF, I should say. Shout out to Mangy. Shout out to like all my old teammates. You know, we've come so far and stuff like that. But yeah, like shout out to all the STK fans and everyone who voted for us in the pick'ems. You know.
Awesome. One last question. What's with the 12 in Luke 12?
The 12. I wasn't planning on becoming a pro player, so I kind of just had my name Luke, and I just put my lucky number after it, which is 12.
Awesome.
That's really it.
Well, this is going for 2 hours and 12 minutes. What are the coincidences of that?
What did you look at that?